Hi there, welcome back to Beauty Bees. Today we are going through my makeup wish list for 2021. Now, will I buy all of these things? Almost certainly not. Will I buy at least a couple of them? I think so. If you've been around for a while, you might know that I follow a monthly budget for makeup of 15 bucks a month. Now, I intend to continue that at least through the first half of 2021. I am going to go through some pretty big life changes mid-2021. I should be graduating. Hopefully I will be starting my first real adult job. I will likely be moving. We don't need to go off on that tangent. $15 a month is what we're looking at for the foreseeable future. And there are some items that cost right at or above that amount that I would still like to get. And I want to get this out there as a way to motivate myself to not spend every cent of my $15 budget every month so that I can save up and get these, I don't want to call them big ticket items, but less small ticket items that I really do think I would appreciate and enjoy. Now, I don't have anything in particular picked out for this first element of my list, which are some new brushes. I've really been enjoying some of the e.l.f. brushes that I picked up last year, I think. It included this really small detail crease brush. I find it very useful. I've used it a ton, and I think that I would like to get some more smaller eye brushes. I think they're really convenient for getting well into that inner corner. I don't exactly have a lot of space between my crease and my brow bone, so it would be nice to have some smaller brushes that would allow me to add a little bit more detail in that area. I would also kind of like a big medium density powder brush. I have one from e.l.f. that is super flimsy and just not good. It's from their old $1 line, and I think I may well have bought it when it was still $1. And it's not great quality. It's not quite dense enough for what I want it to be. So in this next year, I would like to get a bigger brush for bronzer and powder, and I suspect I'll still get an e.l.f. one, so it won't be terribly expensive. But if I want an eye brush set as well as that powder brush, I think I'm looking probably at around the $25 mark. And 25, last time I checked, is indeed more than 15. Item number 2, I'm actually wearing this today. This is the Tarte Jelly Glaze. I have mine in the shade Strawberry. I think this is fantastic. I do have it layered over a little bit of other lipstick. I feel like this is really rich. It's really creamy. I do think that especially if I end up somewhere a little bit colder, that it would make a lot of sense for me to have something like this in the winter. I've worn this overnight a couple of times, and my lips just end up feeling so good in the morning. Love it. Far better than they do with my usual chapstick, whether that be actual chapstick brand or, Blistex, EOS, Soft Lips. Those are usually the 3 that I bounce in between. And this is quite a bit better. Is it 4 times better than my $3 Soft Lips? Debatable. I don't think that this would be something that I would buy in January, February. I think that if I were to buy this, or potentially the Laneige one, I've got it written down, the Lip Glowy Balm, I would probably get one of those more in October or November so that I could use it throughout next winter and then repurchase as needed. In that same category is the Benefit Porefessional Hydrating Primer. I got a sample of this from Sephora that I did not ask for in December or maybe late November, and I've really enjoyed it. I used it up. I used it every single day, which is not how I usually wear primer, but it just felt so good and so rich, but not oily or greasy or gross at all on my skin. felt very nourishing, and I thought that it made my skin feel really nice to the touch. Now personally, I don't wear foundation 90 to 95% of the time, so I didn't wear it under any makeup, but I do think that it helped just the look of my skin, that extra little bit. This is, however, one of the more expensive items on the list. It's $32 for the full-size bottle, and that is over 2 months worth of my budget. I would probably just call it good and say it was 2 months, because the $2 is not going to make or break me, thankfully. But definitely something that I would need to think about and save for before I could pull the trigger on it. Now this one has been on my list for years. I think that this year is the year that I want to get myself a Nars Orgasm set of some kind. I'm thinking that I would probably get a set that contained the mini blush and one of the mini lip products. I've had 2 different samples of the Nars Orgasm lip products in the past. I had one actually just a few weeks ago that was the Afterglow lip balm, and I have had one previously that was, I think it was one of their Audacious lipsticks in the shade Orgasm. It was definitely not as balm-like, though it was still somewhat sheer and of course had that golden sparkle. I loved both of them. I thought that they were a really good color for my complexion. They were comfortable, they felt nice. Now that I've tried the lip products, I suspect that the color of the blush would work really well for me, and you can usually find a set with the mini blush and the mini lip product right around the $25 mark, which is a lot easier for me to swallow than a $30 lip product or a, I think, $35 blush. I'm really trying not to increase my inventory numbers too much. I have my collection at a size where I think it's good. It's at a size where I can use everything pretty regularly. I know how everything performs. I do somewhat naturally use up some makeup, and I think that's fantastic. I don't want it to grow too much to the point where that's not the case anymore. And one area that really expanded over the course of 2020 is eyeshadow, and I want to nip that somewhat and be a little bit more thoughtful about the limited eyeshadow purchases that I make over the course of 2021. And I want any eyeshadow that I bring in this year to be a floor in my collection. That is, I want it to add value. I want it to expand my collection, allow me to do things that I couldn't do with what I already own. Now there are 3 palettes that I'm really looking at right now. I definitely won't be adding all 3. I think that would be far too much for my personal tastes, but I suspect that I will pick up 1 or more of these over the course of the year. So now that I've talked them up, let's look at the first one. The one I'm considering is the BH Cosmetics Smitten in Switzerland palette. I was interested in this when it came out, and then it kind of faded from my consciousness. And then I saw Katarina's Vanity, I'll link her channel below. She hauled this, and it was so pretty. I was seeing it over again and was really brought in by that yellow in the lower left-hand corner. That's beautiful. I actually don't have a matte yellow, so that is something that I'm really looking for in a new palette. I love those cool toned shimmers. I think this is just such a lovely palette. It really would add value to my collection. There are things I could do with this palette that I could not do with the shades that I currently own, but it also strikes that nice balance of being something that could give me looks that I actually like and want to wear, even just by itself. The second palette that I'm looking at, for pretty similar reasons, is the Colourpop Fade into Hue palette. It is $34 regular price. I don't think I mentioned this, but the BH Cosmetics one was $18 regular price, though of course I could always wait for sales on any of these items and get them for a slightly lower price tag. This palette has the yellow, which we've already talked about. I don't have would like to add. It also has a quite true looking red, maybe veering a little bit into coral, as well as a matte orange. And those aren't colors I have either. So we've got 3 shades right off the bat that I am missing and would quite like to have. Those top 3 rows, with the exclusion of the pressed glitters, which I am somewhat open to trying pressed glitters. I know they're not technically eye safe, but I would be willing to give them a go and, you know, put them up here or put them at the outside corner where they'd be very unlikely to get into my eye. Of course, you do you, be safe, whatever. But I think I could give those a go, and 3 out of 30, that's not too bad. Anyway, those top 3 rows really appeal to me. I love how light they are. I think those shimmers in particular are gorgeous, and I could see myself using them quite a bit, even as I transitioned into a more professional setting, likely towards the end of the year. I think that I could still get away with a good chunk of those shimmery shades on the lid, and then supplementing that with some neutrals that I already own. Unlike the Smitten in Switzerland palette, I don't see myself using just this palette by itself very often. I think that I would probably want to bring in some neutrals, bring in some less colorful mattes of some kind, but it is pretty. And I do think that this is a 4 because it has those matte shades that I am missing. In particular, I find myself wanting that yellow sometimes, and I just don't have it. Now for the last item. I think this is rather unlikely to come into my life this year, but, you know, one can dream. And if there's a really good sale, I could definitely see myself snatching this up. This is the Vizier Liaison palette. It's the purple 9-pan palette. I just think it's so beautiful. This is a palette that I've been lusting after since it was released. It's one of those things that kind of fades from my mind, and then I'll see it in a collection video, or I'll see someone pull it out, and it's like, oh, that's pretty. And I just think it's such a grown-up version of a purple palette. I love that it goes in that warmer, more mauve-ish side of purple, and that it also goes straight, true, vibrant, royal purple. And we also have this silver in the middle, and I love silver. I love gray eyeshadow as a whole. It's just lovely, and I think it would work quite well with my coloring. I think that Vizier is supposed to have really nice quality. I could see myself getting a lot of use out of this. I do think that it's probably not as different from other things I own as the other 2 palettes are. I think that this one is probably more of a 3 rather than a 4. Also, if I haven't linked that video earlier, I will up in the cards now, because tossing around 3s and 4s is probably making no sense to most of you. I should actually try to dupe the vibes of this with my collection before I would consider purchasing it, though. I think that would be a good idea. Now, that's not everything that I would like to buy in 2021. I'm sure that there are quote-unquote needs that will need to be met. I will probably need eyeliner at some point. I'll need mascara, maybe some kind of primer. Things that aren't quite as exciting to talk about. They don't really make it onto a wish list, but my budget will need to go towards them. I probably won't buy, I almost certainly will not buy everything on this list, but they're fun to think about. And there are definitely other things that I would like to bring into my collection that don't seem quite as realistic. For example, I would love to get the Nars Skip lipstick. I think that's how you would say it. I think I've also heard people pronounce it Shiop, but I think that it's short for Skipperelli because it's Skipperelli pink. So I don't know. I'm willing to be educated. And there is a part of me that would love to get the Natasha Denona Glam palette, but those 2 seem a little bit more out of the realm of possibility. Right. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing. If you did, let me know what's on your wish list for next year. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.